hello, Peter Jackson. This is Sam Jackson, the new Jackson. I hate to bother you at home, but something's come up, and it's not covered in the sequel manual. Yes, I looked in the index. I looked under reboot and an origin story and cinematic universe, and yeah, there's a new King Kong movie on the horizon. Yes, sir. See, this isn't your standard Kong, sir. He's between different phases of the franchise, depending on whether or not you count the Toho period, sir. See, there are these Vietnam veterans, and they're shooting at him. They only seem to be bothering him a little bit. You don't care what I do? Just make sure it lasts over 3 hours? Well, I doubt very much if we can get to that, sir. I did have one idea. I thought maybe we could have him fight Godzilla in the next movie. Is that a monkey? It's the Kong Skull Island watch-along. Boom, phone down.
I got you.
Little bit of Bob Newhart, King Kong there to open the show. Yes.
Welcome one and all to the Everything Sequel Podcast's watch along of Kong Skull Island.
Right.
Very exciting.
Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this movie. As I said to you off camera,
this is mainstream.
I hadn't seen this until yesterday.
I, of course, saw it in the theater.
What did you say? Mainstream?
Yeah.
Do we not do mainstream movies that much?
You're right. I mean, we have on the watch-alongs. I think
I have no choice.
Let me put it this way:
the overlap between mainstream and bad movies pretty consistent. No,
that's true. But I think there are far more lovers of this movie than Dirty Dancing Havana Nights.
Touche, my friend, touche. And yet I'm wearing the same hat.
Yep.
As I hit my skull with my skull. Yeah, so I mean that's the elephant in the room here, so we might as well we'll talk about it. The stats suggest that this is a well-reviewed and liked movie.
Right.
75% on Rotten Tomatoes, 69% audience score. It's a high-grossing movie, and the MonsterVerse movies that it's a part of don't typically do as well as this. And that all suggests that this movie is a good movie. Whereas I think you could also make the argument that this is a bad movie or a bad adjacent movie.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have an A production of B movie material.
There you go.
But in watching it yesterday, what also struck me is I think I can objectively say this movie has a bad screenplay. And yet, but I don't know how much of that is about trying to manufacture the feeling of a B movie.
Right.
Like I'm
like
nearly
it's purposeful.
I've nearly
that's what I remembered on my first viewing, that it felt like it was purposeful.
Yeah, but I'm still struggling with that. Like, is this a bad movie by design or accident? Is my big overall question, which I'm still coming to terms with.
Because why would you make a tentpole movie purposely bad?
Right. It's if you take everything at face value, you're just getting cliche after cliche after cliche.
Right.
And yet that seems to be so baked into the idea of this movie that it makes you pause from saying that this is just incompetent, rather, from saying this is just incompetent screenwriting.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I still don't know where I am with that on that. I mean, I'm excited to watch it again today and hear what you have to say, because I still don't think I've decided either way.
Okay. I feel. It's interesting because one of the stories I remember from this movie is John C. Reilly just constantly like making a bunch of shit up, I think is what it was. Like he would say something about they'd all be together, and I think he says something like, it's ants, there's ants coming, there's ants everywhere. And they thought that was funny and wanted to put it in the movie, but couldn't do it budgetarily to make CGI ants.
Well,
like
I mean
include that.
I
So
had that
he
exact,
says it,
yeah.
but you don't see it.
Right, I had that exact same thought. I thought, you know, when you improvise a line like that in a movie like this, it's a problem
Right.
because you're giving a job to the effects department by
Right,
saying
exactly.
this. I had exactly that thought. That's really interesting. Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean,
interesting to me that they keep the take where he makes the improv,
yeah,
but that it didn't that it did not go that far. It didn't go so far as to say, "Hey, CGI guys, now we need ants."
yeah, and I think that also speaks to the choice of director for this movie because it's an extremely left field choice for a director, given who was originally lined up to do this movie. I mean, the names associated with this.
Oh, I don't remember who was originally supposed to direct it.
A few people. I mean, the first person who was supposed to direct it was Adam Wingard, who ended up doing Godzilla versus Kong.
Right.
That was who Peter Jackson handpicked. All the way. I mean, this movie took years to develop.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue was still at the time of release underdeveloped. But and then Guillermo del Toro was attached for a while.
Oh, okay.
And Joe Cornish was another name that was mentioned in association with the project. But they went with we went with Voight Roberts, who had one Sundance-winning indie comedy drama to his name, has done this and literally nothing since.
Right.
Apart from TV comedy and stand-up.
We were recently talking about, say, like the Mark Webbs of the world who do a small movie that's done well, that people are impressed by, and the next thing you know, they're directing the next tentpole action.
That's exactly what it made me think of, that comment you made about Tim Miller.
Right.
When we did the Terminator franchise.
Sure.
There does seem to be this trend in Hollywood, is like, and any young hip director who gets something of a name for himself is immediately handed the slightest
bit of cachet.
Right. And I mean, you know, you're talking about like a low budget indie movie that won an award, and that somehow means he's suitable for a big budget franchise movie.
Give him $200 million, right, please.
And I guess, you know, that in terms of the response and in terms of the box office, they were absolutely vindicated in that choice, and that's what's really difficult to talk about with this movie. Mm-hmm. But you could argue that if you were thinking solely about this being a franchise movie and a genre movie, that he, you know, as a director, he fluffed both elements, like both registers of the movie in that respect.
But it's fun. It's interesting because you can see that a lot of people are making some big bets on this movie, you know, including actors Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson.
Yeah.
You know, both Tom Hiddleston probably a little bit more well known.
Well, she just won an Oscar, I believe.
What's that?
She just won an Oscar.
Is that right?
I think so. Yeah, I think I read that Brie Larson this was
Brie, I thought you meant Tom Hiddleston.
No,
I was like, I don't think
fucking guy
I had no. So my first thought was he must have made some short film that won.
I don't want to listen, you know, his acting aside, I don't want to hear that Oscar speech because it'll be full of stories that go nowhere and impersonations of people that you didn't ask to hear. Because every appearance by him ends up that way. An anecdote that goes nowhere and an impersonation of someone that you never
more anger for. From Tom Stewart for everyone.
Oh, you got to know that Tom Hiddleston's right in my sights of the kind of actor I despise, right? You got he's a British person who's in roles he shouldn't be in. You know, it's classic.
But yes, you're right. So she had just won her Oscar, and this was sort of the coming out party of now I'm a star.
This was her Catwoman or her
Right. So you see,
I love the fact that even in my head there, I couldn't figure out how to say Eon Flux because I saw the letters and I was like, what is, like, how is that
I
pronounced?
recognize each letter, but I don't know how to say them in that combination.
I kind of went, I started to say the word and then mentally tracked back to the beginning of the word.
Yeah. So anyway, from the top down, from producers, from the studio to the director that they choose to the actors, you can see a lot of people saying, like, we're taking our swing. We think this will be a hit.
Right.
And they turn out to be right in the end. I mean, it didn't make its money back in the USA, but because of global markets, I mean, it's a huge hit.
It is. So, and I suppose the other elements of kind of the bad movie criteria you can throw at this is that, you know, within the genre fandom of monster movies, it's a very poorly regarded movie. It's seen as a kind of misstep.
Is that right?
Yeah. I don't know if you remember. Well, we talked about this before. Bless you, sir.
Excuse me.
Remember that you did that before you put that on.
I know.
old Shancy slime hands. Strikes again. I love the idea that
I gotta watch that thing.
I love the idea that someone watches this and then meets you socially and shakes your hand and they're like, ah.
Or they just see me. They see me wearing this sweatshirt.
But the Eli Roth's History of Horror.
Yeah.
This was featured in the Monster Movie episode, and I have never seen them be so negative about a movie that they profile.
Oh wow, yeah.
It just seems like there's a lot of resentment from hardcore monster movie people that this was.
Gosh, I don't remember that in that I don't remember.
It's weird. I mean,
because I watched the show, but I just,
I think both in the sense that it misunderstands the King Kong franchise and also the idea of a monster movie, and I'd say I'd probably in abstract agree with that assessment. Having only seen the movie yesterday, I think also this movie is politically suspect. I have no other way of saying it. I mean, it's a King Kong movie, so it comes with the territory, but I don't think they've solved all the political problems they think they have. And I think they've invented a few more. Like, I can't get my, I mean, you choose to do it's we talked about this with the Terminator, right? You choose to do a King Kong movie in 2017 is almost already a racist decision, right? So what you do, you have to be
just by virtue of the timing. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
You have, and so within that, you have to tread very carefully. And I think this
and movie, they don't.
And the last thing this movie does with anything is tread carefully.
Right.
That's just not in this movie's wheelhouse. So I was kind of struck. I was sort of, struck by. I was kind of struck by that. I as the movie, like, I started off the movie thinking that I was being racist in thinking some things about this movie, and then as the movie went on, I realized, no, this movie's making me racist.
These pretzels are making me racist. Oh shit!
I love the fact that you went there, and I love the fact that these pretzels are making me racist is sort of like Curb Your Enthusiasm, basically, isn't it? It's like could be the log line for Curb Your Enthusiasm. So yeah, but it's also, I mean, just also speaking to our brief here on the watch-alongs, this is another difficult to place sequel. It's the 11th King Kong movie, the 4th reboot of the franchise, and the second movie in the so-called Monsterverse, which is yet to materialize.
Yeah. So are we counting 2005 King Kong as the first in the Monsterverse?
No, the 2014 Godzilla is, I believe, the official
first
movie of the Monsterverse.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so basically, as I understand it, and I'm new to the concept of the MonsterVerse because
Oh yeah, it can't be the MonsterVerse because he's. I mean, it's
yeah,
it takes place. Never mind.
yeah. Although this was, this was the original concept of this movie was as a sequel to Peter Jackson's King Kong. Like
Yeah.
the very
Okay.
beginning
So
of
yeah,
development.
that's what that's what I remembered.
But this movie changed in
So
development.
it felt like it was retroactively fit into the MonsterVerse.
Right. Well, not feels like was.
Okay.
Like
yeah.
Factually was. It started. So it was originally conceived as a sequel to the 2005 Peter Jackson King Kong. Then Universal Pictures wanted to make it a King Kong origin story, and then it was sold to Warner Brothers as a Godzilla crossover movie.
Gotcha.
So in development, not only did this become an entirely
it was shifting
movie,
during development,
right? But it became a totally different kind of sequel,
right?
As well.
Yeah.
This is the third this is the third choice for the kind of sequel it was going to be that it ended up as.
That is crazy.
It's also, the history of the King
and
Kong
the thing
franchise,
is because until the end, you have no sense of its placement in the MonsterVerse. It's just a King Kong movie
until till literally after the credits.
Yeah. So in that way, it feels more connected to the 2005 Peter Jackson King Kong. And yet 2005 to 2017, we've been talking a lot lately about how much time has to pass before you kind of refer back to something.
Yeah.
We talked about that in the Naked Gun films and that sort of thing. This feels quick for another King Kong movie, doesn't it?
I don't know if you know this, but not as quick as the first ever King Kong sequel. Do you want to have a guess what year that came out in? The first ever King Kong sequel?
Was it the same year?
Yes. 1933.
33?
Son of Kong. Yes.
Wow.
There was no moratorium
that's
on Kong in the 30s.
That's the level of Breakin' and Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
I know. But even more remarkable is then there is no King Kong movie until the 1960s, and that comes from Japan.
Yeah. So I had forgotten about that and then found it in my research because I was thinking of the is it 78, the Jeff Bridges, Jessica Lange?
70. I've got 76, and then there's a
76.
There's a sequel to that in the mid 80s as well.
Yeah.
King Kong Lives.
Right.
So we get a lot of these. So it's really kind of interesting. We get a lot of the reboots, which are kind of false start. They only generate one or two movies at a time.
But for mass audiences who don't know of the Japanese version, 33 to 1976, that's the gap. And then from 76 to 2005, with the as far along as effects had come, it felt like the right time for Peter Jackson to do what was always his favorite movie too. So that homage makes sense to me. But from 2005 to 2017, it feels like a cash grab.
You're forgetting, of course, Mike, in that largely comprehensive account of the King Kong timeline, you're forgetting, of course, The Mighty Kong, an animated musical sequel which contains the last screen performance of Dudley Moore, which is sandwiched right in between the pretty much right in between the De Laurentiis 70s reboot and the Peter Jackson 2005. It's a 1998 movie.
Wow.
So this is, we
have it's Mighty Joe Young.
No, the Mighty Kong.
No, I know there's a Mighty Kong, but there's also Mighty Joe Young, which is,
and there's Congo, and there's
Congo.
It's a kind of little bit. It's a little bit like Jaws in that there's enough kind of gorilla. There's a gorilla verse,
right?
Which is not to mention the Planet of the Apes movies, which is must have played into how people have reinterpreted Kong over the years. Like, it's hard to not see that correlation, not just in terms of racism, but definitely in terms of racism, but other kind of thematic and political elements too. So it's interesting. It's like it, and that's another that causes me to pause again, because I'm saying this doesn't feel like a King Kong movie, but given that account, what the fuck is a King Kong movie?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Literally, you can. I mean, there's, there's a Japanese movie where he's fighting a robot version of himself. You can do anything with these movies. Everything is on the table, and yet I still feel strongly that this is a something of a portrayal of what I see as the things that work about the King Kong formula. There is no King Kong formula, so why the fuck do I feel
yeah
that?
Right, yeah Well, it's funny too, the original Kong, the 1933 King Kong, that was the last movie I saw in a movie theater before COVID hit.
I thought you were coming dangerously close to admitting what I've suspected all along, that you are in fact a Highlander.
Time traveler.
That you are a Highlander, Mike. It would answer so many questions I have. How you remembered word for word what happened, like shot for shot, what happens in Highlander 2, all those things. It would just put it all in perspective. So that was what, a 2019 re-release of the movie?
Yeah, it was one of those, like a Fathom event kind of a thing.
Right.
And I mean, it was.
So you've probably seen the original King Kong more recently than I have.
Yeah, well, if you haven't seen it in the last couple of years.
Only I could tell you that, but yes, you have.
What, I have to solve that like it's a fucking mystery.
Right, exactly. So that means you saw this and King Kong within about 2 years of each other. How did that experience change how you felt about either movie?
Well, seeing the original King Kong on the big screen was mesmerizing.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. I suspected as much.
Oh man, I mean, what a treat. And it's funny because it's like I take kids backpacking every summer, and one summer, so we can watch movies on the bus ride up, So I always bring a bunch of movies. And one year I thought, you know what I'm going to bring? I'm going to bring the original, like 1980 Clash of the Titans.
Yeah.
And make these kids watch Clash of the Titans, and they hated it.
Yep.
Just loathed it. Like
you
are motion.
Absolutely not the only person who's had that experience with that same movie, introducing it to children. Yeah.
It was devastating.
I've heard that before.
So for me, watching the 1933 King Kong and seeing the effects that they used then, excuse me, it was mesmerizing. It was so beautiful.
It is
like, it was astounding.
Yeah.
I thought it was a transformative experience watching it on the big screen. It was so great.
And I hold the original in that kind of esteem as well. And I don't, to be fair to this movie, which I think is almost purposefully not a horror movie. The original King Kong is not just a horror movie,
right?
It is. I mean, it's a movie that speaks to so much around it. It doesn't feel like a genre film like some movies, like, for basically every other movie in the 30s and 40s from Hollywood does. It feels like they broke the mold in what they were even trying to do with that story, and have never really made that kind of movie again. Maybe I'm giving it too much credit, but that's the way it feels to me. Like, it's so unique, and so it's interesting. It's like, what do you do with?
I feel on the same page with you about that. That tracks for me.
Even like we've talked a lot about these undisputed classics that then get sequels and how hard that always is. But you always have a kind of a genre or a formula to kind of tie it to. Whereas King Kong is like, when I every time I've sat down and watched King Kong in my life, it's been like days and days of me thinking about it afterwards and thinking about what it means and what it's saying about both the time that it was made in and now.
And the time now, yeah.
And it never fails to do that. And most movies don't do that. Even if you're thinking about a Halloween, it's like, well, that's your prototypical slasher movie. King Kong isn't a prototypical anything.
Yeah.
Monster movie,
because of that. Yeah, it's not a prototypical monster movie,
right? But you see people kind of drawing on it, but
sure,
not as an established formula. It's usually like a few kind of images from it. It was interesting to me how much Jurassic Park there is in this movie, because Jurassic Park is trying to be the King Kong of its age, I think.
Yeah.
Not as successfully, even though it's still an interesting movie, and it's a movie that gets more interesting as I think time goes on.
Just rewatched it the other day.
I did watch the first 15 minutes with my son the other day. Yeah, he just put it on at like 6 a.m. Came into my living room. It was fucking Richard Attenborough popping champagne.
Yeah.
I was like, what are you doing? It was like, he said, I'm watching the real Jurassic Park. And I was like, okay, can't argue with that statement.
That's great.
I'm going back to bed.
Before we get started here, we should let people know we are watching Kong Skull Island on HBO Max. So
you certainly are. And you can
get ready.
And you can pretty much watch anything from the Kongverse in there. From the Kongan, the Kong canon. On that platform, so go to town, and I'm sure we'll be following up at some point on the main podcast.
Yeah.
And this movie, we always premiere these episodes on the release date of the movie. This movie came out in mid-March, which
that's a thing lately, though. They're like tentpole movies try to beat everybody to the punch, and you usually get one in March or April now. But
this was not the original release date.
Is that right?
It was originally scheduled for a Christmas premiere. It was supposed to go out in November.
Oh, were they behind schedule?
No. Well, the official line, maybe they were, but the official line is they wanted to wait for the 84th anniversary of King Kong in March, which 84th. To me sounds like a crock of shit. Because who celebrates the 84th anniversary of anything?
Of anything ever.
But I was like, okay, so if that was the case, wouldn't someone say, so we're gonna sacrifice a Christmas release for a minor anniversary that will take us into a dump month, right?
I mean, I get what you're saying. Is March really a dump month? Aren't we?
I know it's right on the borderline, right?
Yeah,
January, February, but
But I hear you.
It's dump month adjacent.
Dump month adjacent, but you could, if
did they think it was going to tank is what I'm really thinking.
Well, see, I'm thinking the opposite, because I'm thinking Christmas is packed, March not so much. We could really clean up. Why fight for an audience? Let's wait.
It worked.
Yeah.
And didn't Godzilla vs. Kong come out roughly at the same time?
Yeah, I think so.
A March release as well.
That sounds right.
By the way, I considered us doing that, but the reviews for that movie are even more glowing than this one.
Right.
And it seems like, I haven't seen the movie yet, but it seems like they got a big budget movie director to do like do material that they were familiar with. So I don't know if that is seen as a kind of course correction of this, but only I'm thinking that. Everyone else seems to love it.
Right.
But there are problems with this movie. Like I can't imagine I love a schlocky piece of shit as much as the next guy.
And we know I do.
I was gonna say, only if the next guy is you. I'm looking at you when I say that. But But even if I was in the movie theater, I would still be like, this movie has problems. I'm not all in on this.
Yeah, that was my reaction the first time I saw it. I have not seen it since. I'm kind of excited.
Yeah.
Because I'm starting to realize I thought what you were describing earlier, my memory for movies, I thought I just had memory for movies, and I think to a certain extent that's true. But for my youth, the reason I remember movies so well is because I watched them over and over and over again. And if I'm not enamored with a movie now, I just don't go back to it. When you only see it once, I mean, it just fades. That's just what happens. And so I'm very, I'm delightfully curious to see this movie again.
Well, absolutely.
But your reactions sound like it's triggering my memory of when I was walking out of this movie theater, in the theater in 2017.
I wonder if it's another one of those kind of sequels that we've talked about that just kind of creeps by. Like people like it enough that they're willing to say good things about it, but if they ever went back to it, they would struggle to see what they liked about it. We talked about that with The Dark Knight Rises. I wonder if it's one of those.
No, I think it's
no.
I've been spending a lot of time looking at comments on like movie line questions, right. And when you see hundreds of comments from the general public, regarding what they think about movies, they're even more ridiculous than me. Their passion for some pretty bad movies.
So what is?
And there's not a lot of critical analysis behind their thought process, I don't think.
No, true. But you could answer this now or at the end, or whatever. Break it into two parts. But what is it about this movie that people gravitate to? Because I can't think of what it might be.
I think they thought it was fun.
You see, that's how I was ready to feel that way. And I'd taken the wall down because I'm watching a movie called Kong Skull Island.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so I'm in the mood for a schlocky piece of shit, but it didn't gratify on that level for me.
I remember thinking I
just kept thinking, that's clunky. That didn't work. That piece of dialogue should have been rewritten. And I don't know. I'm with genuinely schlocky pieces of shit. I don't feel that way. I think, oh, that's deliciously fun and stupid.
Yeah.
And none of this is deliciously fun and stupid. It's just sometimes plain stupid.
Let me ask you this. I feel like I remember, it doesn't apply to say John Goodman or Samuel L. Jackson. Certainly not John C. Reilly. Maybe it's the two leads. Maybe it's Hiddleston and Brie Larson.
Are they the leads? That's another problem.
Well, that's the other question. Are they the leads? But the other thing was, were they not getting the tone of this movie?
It's very variable. And I'm not convinced anyone is quite nailing it.
Because you're right. I don't think the movie. I think the movie, as I'm remembering it, felt, although it is ridiculous and it obviously can be schlocky, but it also feels like it's trying to be slick, which doesn't match what some of the actors are doing, the John C. Reillys and
it's
Samuel L. Jacksons of the world.
Slick and empty was the fit. It's like, it's like I get why you're doing that jump cut, but it's boring. Like it's that kind of feeling of it's like there's nothing behind that. That really is just a guy eating a sandwich. But it's.
I'm starting to think we've talked enough, and it's time to put the rubber to the road.
Because we can do this beat by beat. We can dissect this beast of a movie at 1 minute and 58.
Yeah.
Sorry. What? That is wishful thinking. 1 hour and 58 minutes. It's a long.
I'm thankful for that.
You're thankful. You thought. Why are you thankful for that? That's long for this.
It's long, but I honestly
should not be this long.
I was worried that I was going to bring it up and it was going to be 220.
Right. Because I mean, the original King Kong.
It absolutely should be an hour and 40 minutes, but I'm thankful that at least it's not 2 hours and 20 minutes.
King Kong's a solid 90 minutes, right? Must be.
Yeah, I think so.
You can get all that done in King Kong. If you can get all that you do in King Kong done in under 90 minutes, and I'm pretty sure it's under 90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think you need Kong Skull Island to be 1 hour, 58 minutes.
All right.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We're on HBO Max. We're getting ready. Are you ready, Tom?
I certainly am. I just have to press play.
All right, here we go, everyone. In 3, 2, 1. Oh, wind. Oh,
see,
sorry. Now, even that was funny.
Hearing this, what are you thinking? Hearing this sound.
Well, it sounds like King Kong. It sounds like the top of the Empire State Building.
Right. It's an out of context imbas. Trying to be a sequel without being a sequel, right?
Right.
Just reminding us of something, but then we're told it's a fake out. It's not the last time we'll see someone falling from a great height into the frame of the camera.
Yeah. That sounded like the voice of John C. Reilly.
I've seen Boogie Nights. That's not what John C. Reilly looked like at that age. There's a whole movie about how he wasn't that idealized and attractive at the same age that guy is.
Right. See, you could have cut plenty of time out of your movie right here.
Well, later on, I'll tell you why I think this is the wrong cold open. I'm immediately thinking that they're trying to play, because this is a franchise that is both Eastern and Western, that this is why they have an American and a Japanese pilot.
Right.
That they're sort of, and because this is going to be Kong and Godzilla, they're like the two main monsters in the MonsterVerse that they want to have. They're basically playing out the MonsterVerse. They're playing out Godzilla versus Kong with humans before they get to the monsters. Mm-hmm. Is how it seemed to me. It's interesting watching this back, knowing like where the storyline goes in the movie. And there's a bunch of stuff they totally forgot about. Here's the monkey paw. Bad luck for some.
This movie's too orange.
I have that note later as well. It's like it's a misunderstanding of what the 70s movies that they're trying to ape look like.
Yeah.
It's way too luminous to be like a 70s style movie.
Right. All right. Well, that was 3 minutes and 15 seconds I could have done without.
And here we get the opening credits to the CNN series about different decades in American history. Have you ever seen that documentary, the CNN, like the 60s, the 70s, the 80s?
Yeah.
That's exactly, the opening to that is exactly the same as this.
Right.
Musically, visually, Tom Hanks should sue this movie, is what I'm saying. And Ron Howard. Also, it's just a weird way to start the movie.
It's what?
It's a weird way to start the movie.
Yeah.
Like, what is it trying to tell us? Like, why is it there? I don't quite get it. Like, time has passed? Sure. I know time has passed.
Is that a joke? There'll never be a more screwed up time in Washington?
Well, that's the other thing, is we're going to hear that joke again in those exact same words. And this movie is really bad at repeating the same scene verbatim. It restacks. Everything in this movie has to be restacked. It's like watching fucking Star Trek Picard. You told me once, I got it. Move on. I don't need a whole episode on this one story point. Especially that last sting there. That was pure CNN.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we get a bunch of Trump digs. There's a honk for impeachment sign in the background.
Right.
Yeah, we just heard someone else saying that a few minutes ago. This was oh look, there's an old-timey computer. You never see more of Nixon than you do in a movie made in the modern day about the 1970s.
Yeah, right.
There wasn't that much Nixon available to you in the 70s itself than there is in a movie about the 70s. Richard Jenkins.
Naval ship mysteriously destroyed.
It's kind of, this is what
How
I
did
mean
that
about,
ship not sink?
This is what I mean about a production of B movie material, because this is like, this scene is monster movie admin, right? This is like, you've got to have this scene. But you've got at least two of the best character actors of their era.
Right.
In the scene. And, you know, Corey Hawkins, is that his name? There's no
Corey Hawkins. I'm not as enamored with Corey Hawkins as Hollywood seems to be.
No, I'm not either. But these two wonderful gents can do no wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Jurassic
sorry.
Park.
Not very good.
Welcome to Jurassic Park. Oh, John Goodman.
Yeah, love him.
You make it all okay. Do you remember when they tried to make Corey Hawkins into Jack Bauer?
When they what?
When they tried to make Corey Hawkins into Jack Bauer.
Yeah.
There's like a series of 24 where he was the Jack Bauer character.
Right.
That's how much Hollywood loves Corey Hawkins.
Right.
What do you think? So, like, racial and cultural upheaval was always part of the subtext of King Kong. When it's part of the plot of the movie, does it work? Like when you actually see people protesting in Washington,
right,
about issues of race and war, like, shouldn't that be the subtext, not the content of the movie.
The text.
I don't know.
Yeah, I get, that you're right.
And the soundtrack begins.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how many era-specific songs there are in this movie?
I mean, I remember that there were plenty.
Oh, you see, when you see the record, when you see the needle of the record playing the record in a movie, I think that's the modern day equivalent of stupid ADR. Like when you see a shot of a record player. It's like, we get it. There's music playing.
Where are you time-wise in the movie?
Do I need to stop? I'm 9:47, 9:48, 9:49.
All right.
Are you
Somehow
far
I
out?
got so far ahead of you.
You did?
Yeah.
See, that was where I first thought I was being racist with Sam Jackson. Because they shoot him like he's a gorilla. And then I felt
well,
racist.
they shoot him. Yeah, they shoot him like they would Kong.
Right. And then I thought, no, that's me being racist. Thinking that, making that connection. And then the rest of the movie is about that duality.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2017 and we're comparing a black man to a monkey in a movie.
Right.
But then part of me loves, Sam Jackson's face. It's like a living comic book. It's beautiful.
So good.
All his looks. There's a great... If you see that photo of him shaking hands with Lyndon Johnson, it's like he's got this he's like half scowling.
Right.
Which is exactly what would happen if Sam Jackson like met any president.
Met anyone.
Yeah. It's like, you're on thin ice. Okay, we appreciate the great society, but you're on thin ice.
Right. What's amazing about Sam Jackson is, I mean, he is when this movie comes out, he is a year away from being 70. And there's not a second that you don't believe he can do anything he does in this movie.
Right. Oh, apart from the Jerry curl, he doesn't look different than he did in Pulp Fiction.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I thought you might need a plainer, duller visual style if you're going to try and replicate a 70s movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everything's just a little bit too bright and luminous.
Saigon.
I wonder if we're going to see a whorehouse. This is the other thing about, like, this movie is obviously like heavily leaning into the Vietnam War movie, but not the Vietnam War. Like, all the iconography is things you've seen in Vietnam War movies, not the Vietnam War itself.
Yeah.
It's like Full Metal Jacket, Apocalypse Now.
You fully expect to hear "Love You Long Time."
I'm sure you can hear that in the like the voices in the background.
Yeah.
At some point, someone in this movie says "Diddy Mao" out of context. So it's the kind of movie we're dealing with here. Yeah, when you want a badass mercenary, the first thing you think of is a well-spoken, pasty British man who does impressions. Yeah, your perfect skin looks like it's been through some hellholes in your life. Neither do you, Tom Hiddleston. Neither do you. least they let him use his own accent.
Yeah.
Do you know that he played Hank Williams in a film?
Yeah, I do.
Was Timothy Olyphant not available? Or Walton Goggins? Or someone from the fucking South? I bet second on the list was Benedict Cumberbatch as well. Bet they weren't even thinking of someone who had actually lived that life.
More music.
Here we are. We're getting some Scorsese Reds here in the photo lab. It's like...
I've never written on my hand ever.
I recently saw the re-release of The Godfather, and there's a moment in it where Sonny Corleone's James Caan is on the phone, and he writes like he's getting information of a.
Does he write it on the wall?
Meantime, he writes it on his own kitchen cabinet, but he doesn't write the number. He writes the time. It's like, well, you're gonna remember the time. It's like the place that they're meeting. That's the key information. Well, that was why Santino was a bad dame. The exposition in that photo lab scene is so horribly incorporated. They say so much to each other that they would never say out loud.
Right.
Here's our comic relief for the rest of the movie.
Yep.
Two actors known for their dramatic work.
Being hilarious.
Nothing says comedy to me like Shea Wiggum from Boardwalk Empire. A woman? Well,
yes, on account of my vagina.
He might as well have said, a woman in 1973? Well, now I know where those two people stand on a number of political
I know.
issues.
I was just going to say, I've never seen worse dialogue delivered so well than that delivered by Samuel L. Jackson. That was amazing.
It's so funny because if you actually read the reviews that got this 75% on Rotten Tomatoes, you'll see that they make a lot of those same comments, like the actors elevate bad dialogue. It's like, well, why are you giving this movie a bad review? A good review.
Even the island looks like.
Well, that's it. I mean,
it looks like a monster in profile.
Can we not even pay lip service to the fact that is no one going to point out that this island looks like a face? This is where you need Rick Ollier from The Phantom Menace. The whole island is one big face. That's what computers used to look like, everyone. The dialogue in these scenes sounds like it's written by AI.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just writing the tropes. You're not writing around the tropes. He literally begins that lecture with, it's simple, really. I mean, that's like the way every kind of Q lab scene, Q branch scene begins in a James Bond movie.
Right.
You think I'd enjoy it more?
Unknown period of time.
Where do we know this guy from?
The guy who was just speaking?
Yeah. This kind of Freddy Prince Jr.-esque kind of character.
I know him from The Hurricane Heist.
Okay, so maybe I don't know him as well as I think I know him. What's his name? No.
Yeah, I gotta look it up.
But I feel like I've seen him in a lot.
Yeah, I think he was in the Ben-Hur remake, and
Still, the penny's still not dropping. I have not seen these movies.
Sorry.
And I didn't even know there was a Ben-Hur remake in recent years. We get it. You're a photojournalist.
Right.
Move on. God. I think there's a drinking game in this movie where you take a shot every time someone says what they do for a job in their dialogue.
That's great.
I've counted at least 3 so far.
Let's see, what else has he been in? Bloodshot. Planet of the Apes
in a Black
movies.
Mirror episode?
Yeah, he is.
Okay, that's where I know him from.
Yeah.
Have you seen that episode?
That terrible 2015 Fantastic Four.
It seems like Black Mirror was the highlight of his career still.
One episode, Black Mirror.
It's a great episode, though. A great
Warhorse. Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time.
I believe that episode is being developed into a movie, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, first time I think I remember seeing him was Rock and Rolla.
the guy on the ship who we just saw, I bet they asked him to grow a beard for the part and he couldn't grow it quick enough. Because he's like halfway through growing a beard that will be really good. He's like, guys, give me 2 more weeks. This will look amazing. Be like the Gordon's fisherman, I tell you. No, like, we got to film this now. We've got a very narrow window of 5 years.
John Ortiz, he's sort of an it guy right now.
Yeah.
Hollywood's been loving him lately for a good 10 years. In big and small roles.
On the helicopter. Like, see, Jurassic Park does this in the 90s. And so it's, where they say, I'm never going to that island. And then the next thing that happens is you see them on the way to the island. And they do it again here. And that makes me think it's a tribute to that kind of film. But it's also very dumb in and of itself. So is this movie like cherry picking the wrong things about bad movies? Is that what makes it a not good bad movie?
Yeah.
Like, why are you fetishizing these aspects of bad movies that we're glad don't exist anymore?
Got to bring the record player.
We need to see the needle drop on the record, or we won't know where the music's coming from. Because we're stupid people.
Check 3 times.
Nixon bobblehead.
Wow, Nixon bobblehead.
This movie's equivalent of the Han Solo dice is the Nixon bobblehead.
Yeah, exactly. Ooh, dramatic pointing.
Did you hear what he said when they left? Or has he not said it yet? Oh, no, he's not said it, I don't think.
keep visual. In 20 feet, you're not going to see shit.
I told you the dialogue's written by AI.
Yeah.
These are the nuances that are missed when a robot writes a screenplay.
Let's do this.
He also just said, "Hold on to your butts." So,
are you sure? Are you sure you've done this before? This seems reckless.
Also, is Fox 5 a reference to Pulp Fiction or the local news network Fox 5?
I'll tell you what, that new movie that's out, the 355.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, it just seems like Fox Force 5.
Interesting. I feel like that's written by someone I don't like.
Holy shit, we got pink lightning.
The other he's talking about Icarus.
What's that?
He's talking about Icarus.
Yeah.
I think he should have just called Tarantino up and said, "Can I just say the Ezekiel speech here?
Right.
They got me doing this dumb Icarus thing. I've already said, hold on to your butts. You know, can we just mid-90s up this entire movie?" The Nixon bobblehead has arrived.
Well, that was easy.
It's exactly the same. Yes. It's exactly the same as the Han Solo dice because, you know, I'm sure there were no Nixon bobbleheads in the actual 70s, only in movies about the 70s.
When Hiddleston,
there was no Han Solo dice until
when Hiddleston leaned forward there, I really wanted him to say, "There's going to be a lot of bad mosquitoes."
Well, we haven't got to the improv comedy part of the film yet. So.
No, yeah. No, we're not there yet.
And when it comes strong.
It comes hard.
It's a improv comedy slam. Again, you could just say "Welcome to Jurassic Park" and it would fit perfectly well.
You know what it is? This movie is more concerned about looking pretty.
Yeah.
And looking expensive.
But I think that's the Jurassic
Than setting any other kind of tone.
I think that's why it made me think of Jurassic Park so much, because it's, you know, that's in that wheelhouse.
Yeah, but it makes sense in Jurassic Park because that's the veneer of the park and Hammond himself.
I'm not saying, I'm by no means saying that there's no narrative justification for any of this.
Of course. Yes.
Speaking of not having narrative justification, 70s rock song from a helicopter in a Vietnam movie.
This is his Francis Ford Coppola moment.
Moments.
Yeah.
The one of 8, at least.
You know that right before they filmed this, at some point, somebody said, "Bro, as the helicopter's landing, we're going to see blue smoke. It'll look so cool."
Oh, CGI idea.
Yeah.
Always a bad sign when you can't even get the animals that exist in the world right.
Right.
For a movie about fantasy animals. You can't even get deer right? How are you going to do a giant monkey?
Oh, no.
Bless you.
Thank you.
You know what this movie could have done with the music?
Anything else?
We could, I just want a bunch of album tracks that you've never heard before.
Yeah, right.
Wouldn't that be incredible?
Yeah.
If it was just like whatever's on the B-side of that
Christ.
Black Sabbath album.
I gotta watch poor fucking deer blow up. Was that supposed to be a comedic bit?
the tone of this movie is so hard to pin down at any given
The
moment.
tone right now is strange.
Yeah. It's very, it's like,
What was I can't remember. I know they explained it before. What was the point exactly of blowing shit up?
well, I know what, I know in the screenplay what the point is, so it wakes up the big monkey whose name is in the title.
Yeah, right.
But you have to do something because Kong is nice now.
But that's
have
what
to
I
do
mean. You don't know
something-
anything about this island, but you think there's something hinky going on, and your idea is to throw down a bunch of bombs.
It's the American way. I think that's maybe the point being made. We just napalm the shit out of, that part of the world. Why stop now? It's kind of interesting because with Kong, it's like well, there we go. There's the sandwich jump cut.
Wow, sandwich.
I mean, can you get more on the nose than that?
No.
There's nothing behind that, is there? It's literally...
This shot is what the whole movie was about.
But you see, this is not a reveal of King Kong. This is a reference to Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Like, that's what stays with me, not that we're reintroducing King Kong after a 12-year gap.
I'll say this. I like the look of Kong in this movie.
I like the look of Kong. I don't like what they do with his motion.
With his what? His motion?
Yeah. We'll talk about that later on.
Well, I certainly like the motion certainly looked terrible in that first cold open.
From an effects point of view, I think this looks fine. It's about how they characterize the monster.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, it's seamless, really.
What the hell is that? Yeah, get your comeuppance.
It's a kind of be careful what you wish for, because I like the idea that we just see Kong, like very visibly, that there's no suspense around the reveal. But I also think that diminishes the impact when we first see him. So I don't know what you do. I don't know what the solution is, but I don't think it works.
Well, I mean, obviously they were going for surprise, because we're in the middle of the 12-year-old boy boner blow shit up scene, which just hard cut to tree thrown into helicopter.
Well, if two pilots landing on the beach can wake him up, then napalming the shit out of his island will too.
Yeah.
So we shouldn't be surprised, really.
Right.
Yeah, because this is the most mobile I think we've ever seen King Kong. This is 360
Seeing
King
Kong himself, you mean?
Like 360 King Kong, he's running, he's jumping.
Right.
My question is, does King Kong need to be mobile for him to work as a monster? Did we just see that Nixon bobblehead again?
Yep.
Wow, this movie just won't let go of an idea, will it?
No, I didn't need that.
What part?
That upside down, turn upside right nonsense.
There's a lot of Terminator Salvation style first person action shooter stuff.
Yeah, you're right. That's what it reminds me of.
And as we know, when you do it, when you do first person stuff, you're either thinking of a video game or Mean Streets, and this is definitely the video game version. I don't know if there's a video game version of Mean Streets, though.
Do you love your mama, Tom? Yeah, that chopper, that big carrier chopper, made a poor decision flying that close. Slow motion for you, Tom. I dare say it's not necessary.
It's actually the least offensive thing about this moment, where a black man and a gorilla look into each other's eyes and realize they are the same.
Fuck.
This was the moment I was like, oh, they're actually going for this parallel. I'm not racist, the movie's racist. Because Sam Jackson,
oh god damn it,
Sam Jackson is a beautiful human being.
right?
He does not look like a gorilla unless you film him to look like a gorilla by matching the shots with a gorilla.
Oh,
as you
fuck.
just said, he's the sexiest fucking man in his 70s that has ever existed.
Right. Somebody should have just tried to give that fucking Kong a goddamn Twinkie.
Speaking of racist scenes in Hollywood movies, that's what's the line? That's a big Twinkie. What's the line from Ghostbusters?
Yeah, that's the line.
Yeah.
It'd be a Twinkie, you know, this big. That's a big Twinkie.
The only way that the only way Winston can understand what's going on scientifically is to compare it to a Twinkie.
It's to put it into Twinkie language.
Because he's a black man in the 80s. No, we're really not going to talk about it. We're just going to stand around saying that we can't believe what we saw. That's not the same as talking about it. All the dialogue in this movie is a description of what you want to convey in the scene that is yet to be transferred into dialogue.
That's amazing.
Honestly, I've never seen it, never witnessed a screenplay like this that's so mechanical. Like it's literally the foundations of a screenplay. We get some Ben Burt Star Wars sound effects.
Mm-hmm.
Not for the last time.
I like it in this sort of movie when you see 43 choppers, but all they show you are the people they want you to follow. And then when everybody dies, it's everybody other than the people that you followed.
Well, this is another one of my bugbears about modern movies, is that in movies with big casts, the standard now is to break them into double acts. Like pair them off into double acts.
Yeah.
Like we never get a sense of an ensemble.
No, yeah.
And I just don't think that was the case in Hollywood movies that had big ensembles. Like The Thing, both versions of The Thing.
Right.
I don't remember them all being paired off in the same way as they do in, say, Prometheus, is what this movie
right, of course.
It was like two at a time. And again, it feels like it's a movie made by a COVID safety officer.
Do you think that's a byproduct of the short attention spans of people nowadays? Like filmmakers feel like they have to, because it would be too difficult for people to listen to 8 people in a room. Like limit is 3 or 4.
All they have to do is like put on Glengarry Glen Ross, you know?
Yeah,
to see how you write like a gang drama. It's really easy. Really easy. 12 Angry Men. It's so fucking easy.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing it in the 50s, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I think that might be part of it. I know, because Prometheus was written by people who had only written for television or predominantly wrote for television. I think it's a byproduct of the way that television screenplays are broken down.
Yeah.
2-person scenes. It's not much of an interrogation scene when the guy gives up
Oh yeah.
like more information than you even asked for.
Breaking
any-
news, Tom. Not that this will be breaking news when people hear this, but it looks like Major League Baseball has come to an agreement with its players. I'm sure you're excited. Sorry, I was more interested in that news alert
Well,
on my phone than what's going on in the movie.
I was gonna say you'll remember where you were, but anyone watching this will not be where they were. Everyone in this movie gives up backstory at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, he didn't even need to put the gun on him, really. He could have just said,
Right?
"Tell me
Yeah,
everything
exactly.
you know."
Yeah. Also, you're Samuel L. Jackson. You don't need the gun. You could just glare. He's going to
Yeah.
tell you everything you want to know anyway.
Here's Corey Hawkins saying exactly the same thing that John Goodman just said. Which, if everyone was all in this scene, we wouldn't need to do twice.
Right.
It would actually save you time if you didn't pair everyone off. I know you think it's a time saver, but it's not. It's the opposite of a time saver.
It's a time lengthener.
Yeah.
It's the reason this movie is not an hour and 40 minutes.
And also, if you're going to do that, why wouldn't you intercut their monologues?
Mm-hmm.
If they were going to say exactly the same thing to two different sets of people, why wouldn't you intercut between the two? So you only had to say it once. Not that I'm telling people
Hiddleston.
how to make their movie.
Nobody move. I know just what to do.
It's a giant.
When you
buffalo.
see a yakish creature, you just don't move.
I haven't seen enough of the Kong series to know if like there's a precedent for this kind of creature, but as a way of illustrating what King Kong is, it's pretty dumb.
Yeah.
Giant yak doesn't tell me anything. Animals can be big. Okay, right, I get it.
Right.
On this island, animals are big. This is what, again, you need Rick Ollier to come in.
Except
and go,
the deer.
Oh, well, God, you've just blown that theory.
Yeah.
So it's not even that simple. Rick Ollier should come in and say, on this island is made of giant
Oh,
animals.
I'm starting to remember Samuel L. Jackson now. Isn't he like kill him at all costs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is him. He's
Yeah,
killing
right.
him. He's killing the savage side of himself because this is a racist movie.
Yeah.
Well, you can play it two ways. So, well, three ways. There are three levels to this. There's the plot level, in which case he's just lost the Vietnam War. He's not going to lose another war.
Mm-hmm.
The second layer is he's a black man in America. King Kong represents everything that people have, is like air platform.
The oppression.
Right, the impression of it. So he's killing the stereotype of himself. And the third layer, which I think is the true level of this, is that we're comparing a black man to a monkey and saying they're the same things. And he needs to kill that part of him in order to be a real human being. I mean, maybe accidentally that's what happened. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, but that's how it comes across. It's the least visceral monster you could imagine. A spider that looks like a tree.
Yeah.
It amazes me how they can create creatures like this without it ever feeling visceral. Because even with CGI, you can do it. Starship Troopers, that's all CGI. I said spider, he might be a crab.
Yeah, it's hard to.
On closer inspection, this is a crab. How good would this movie be if Arnie was in it? How good would this movie be if Arnold Schwarzenegger was in it? Playing anyone.
No, for fuck's sake.
And you will know my name is the Lord.
When I lay my vengeance upon
He might
you.
as well. He said, "Hold on to your butts." He might as well just do lines from all his movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like that T-shirt you have that says, "I speak in fluent movie quotes."
Yeah.
Sam Jackson speaks fluent Sam Jackson quotes.
Yeah. By design.
Yeah. Think it has anything to do with that big monkey we just saw?
Right. Is this one of the moments where you have to wonder if this movie is going to get more racist or less racist?
And I think with the treatment of Native people in the movie, it's actually both. It's less racist than the original King Kong, yet
Right.
more racist than it should be in 2017. That's pretty much everything in this movie, racism-wise. Less racist than one of the most racist movies of all time. But not anti-racist enough.
Nobody shoot.
Something cool and interesting is happening. We got to find a way to ruin it. How do we do that? Here's Popeye! Oh, God. Here's sketch comedy Dennis Hopper.
Yep.
Fucking hell. I'm just filming an Adam McKay movie on the other lot. Am I wrong in thinking that having him appear like this immediately ruins everything that was good about this scene?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Like I'm not opposed to
But
him
that's what I
appearing.
mean. Like the tone of this movie shifts. Like I don't think this movie knows what it wants to be.
Right. I think it got really insecure about having like a that moment, which is
A
like
dramatic moment.
like a genuinely scary dramatic moment.
Yeah.
I think it was like, oh, we got to do something to like take the edge off this. It's like it's a King Kong movie. I want a little bit of edge, you know.
It's the reverse.
I want to feel scared. It's a monster movie.
It's the reverse. It's the opposite of the helicopters blowing shit up, fun and games, followed by Kong attack.
Right. There's ants, which we don't have money for. I'm going to say a bunch of shit that's out there, but you'll never see it.
But you'll never see it.
I can't believe that happened. Editor should have jumped on that shit.
Let me tell you the water I would never drink.
Giant monkey dump water.
Yeah.
Yeah. With a full of giant octopuses. See, this is where like the motion really undoes the monster part, because he's just walking around like Bigfoot. You know, you know that casual Bigfoot saunter. The in the clip, you know, it's like his movement is far too casual for me. He's just like, sup.
How's it going, homie?
Oh my God. He literally did this. With his like he's Obama talking about how Republican diatribe affects him.
Yeah, right.
all got Kong wrong. He's just a gentle soul who happens to live on an island full of big fucking monsters who are trying to eat him all the time.
Right.
It makes him this kind of Squidward figure. Like, his life would be fine if he, didn't have to deal with, in the way the Squidward would be fine if he didn't have to deal with SpongeBob. Like, Kong's life would be great if he didn't have to deal with all these fucking monsters all the time.
Yeah.
Gotta say, admirable restraint not to do a calamari joke. But I guess it's the 70s. Although they've been in Vietnam for years, so they probably know all about, pulpo.
Wow. That's some camera work.
It's 360 Skull
What's the
Island.
guy's name? Jordan Vogt Roberts.
Yeah.
During that shot, he should have just a picture of him should have been in the corner waving his arms saying, "Look at me."
Tell you what it reminds me of, weirdly, what you just said is the opening to the TV series Lower Decks, the Star Trek animated spin-off.
Uh-huh.
Where on the ship you see like the ship going by and there's a big monster attached to it, and just as it passes by the camera it just looks out into the camera for a second and then goes back.
Now is not the time for your mental breakdown.
Now is not the time for your pertinent questions. The next scene is the pertinent question scene. Look, it's written up as that way in the script. Pertinent question scene. It's like we want to celebrate the beauty and color and richness of their culture, but they're also sneaky shits who'll cut off your hands given a chance.
Right.
It's a bit of a bait and switch to make suddenly switch the monster of the movie.
Yeah, right.
In the middle, in literally with an hour to go in the movie. What? This isn't about Kong anymore?
Oh, there have been other Kongs?
There have been other Kongs, and actually the real monsters are these kind of lizard things that look like
the dinosaurs
when they stretch their faces in Beetlejuice.
Yeah, exactly. See what they did? He's Kong. He's king around here.
Kong's a pretty good king.
Except earlier today.
And also it's alarmingly like what he's saying now is alarmingly like he's one of the good ones.
Yeah, exactly.
I wish I didn't have to read all this racism into it, but it's really hard not to. Again, you're in a King Kong movie, so you've got to be careful.
Right.
This is racist territory, people. Tread lightly.
Caution. Oh man.
I'm glad you had that reaction too. Because it's like it's so Tom Hiddleston and Brie Larson can't do that comedy to save their lives. John G. Reilly can, but he's not got the material to do it properly.
Right.
So everyone is off. Like everyone's out of step with the comedy. And it made me think, like, why is that joke about making up a name for the monster? Why does that work so well in the Tremors sequels, but not here?
In the what sequel?
In the Tremors sequels.
Yeah, right.
Like it lands so well in there, but it doesn't here. And that's a supposedly like a video sequel. And this is supposedly a big budget movie with
Yeah, right, exactly.
the most talented people making it. Also, like a bit of a lack of faith in King Kong to suddenly make him the bee monster out of nowhere. It's like, did you really want to make a King Kong movie?
How about 4 days?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Just not specifically 2 days.
I tell you, once I saw all the giant animals, like when I see the small insects flying around, that's when I think one bite and I'm dead. One mosquito bite and I'm dead.
Apparently they have purple blood as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, the way that they're using Sam Jackson, they obviously want it to feel like a kind of snakes on a plane. Because they keep having him say lines like, that's one ugly ass bird, and
yeah,
well, hold on to your butts. And
see, here's another thing I wouldn't do. I'd go around the swamp.
I'm a mercenary. A very well-spoken, somewhat effete mercenary. This is the part of the movie where I was like, we're following this guy's story now?
Yeah, right.
When did he become the lead of this movie?
Like, I'm surprised we're not getting some sort of B story for what's his name? Me, Earl, and the Dying Girl, and Hawkins' younger self in Halloween Kills there. Like, where he wants to get home to his girl.
Also, do you think someone who disappeared in 1944 would know what tetanus is?
I'm not sure he'd even be able to speak English.
This is also the point in the movie where I realize how much I hate the device of having a character that's a photographer in a movie. Because like it's just going to dominate the visual style. You're going to just see pictures being taken for like half the movie. instead of actually watching a motion picture, you're watching a picture that's static. It's like, if I wanted that, I'd go to a photo exhibition.
Yeah, I better lift this chopper off of him.
Like, how do you, on both sides of the camera, how do you like justify this scene of like?
I was just gonna say, what is this scene doing here? Make it stop.
How do you like? Brie Larson saying, "So I really think I can lift this chopper," and the director's like, "Well, that's the only way this scene can play. Otherwise, you just stand there because unless something big comes along and moves it,
right?
You've got no choice." I'd love it if Kong just ate that bison right now. Just fucking snapped its head off and ate it. Kong loves his white women.
He does.
Can't get enough of them. Yeah, let's just reference the racist trope. It's almost like Kong went, nah, too racist. I'm off. I'm going. I don't want to get into this territory again. This isn't Birth of a Nation. I'm out.
Bad idea. Bad idea.
Bad idea. It's the equivalent of that Seinfeld episode. Should we be talking about this? Let's just not talk about this. How I intrinsically desire white women. Oh, there's John Goodman. We haven't seen him for a while.
I know, right?
We've been dealing with that other bearded aging character actor.
By the way, I mean, I get that Kong can throw a helicopter a distance or whatever, but I mean, it just feels like they're, that like if it was in the United States, Kong attacked in California and then some of these people ended up in Iowa. Like that's how far away from each other it feels they are. Ah, for fuck's sake, more music.
I mean, you wouldn't get decent odds if you were to make a bet that CCR were going to be in this movie, would you?
Oh yeah. What a stupid joke. Only John C. Reilly can almost make that funny.
Almost. Congratulations, you fluffed every joke in that scene.
Seriously. Like
that is like
every joke is a miss. That was actually kind of astonishing.
I was gonna say it's like the polar opposite of that scene in Austin Powers where he finds out what's happened, where everyone finds out what's happened in both Dr. Evil and Austin Powers find out what's happened in the interim.
In the interim time, right.
Lands. That's literally the polar opposite.
Oh man.
Oh fucking hell.
So this guy's just off by himself. The hurricane heist.
That's not what bothers me about this scene. What bothers me about this scene is that it's like a literal stick insect. Like the tree spider was as stupid as if it was a stick insect.
Yeah.
This is a stick insect.
This is an actual stick insect.
So they obviously thought when they did the tree spider that wasn't stick insecty enough. And we had to go full stick insect. Like fucking Groot.
Are we in a part of the world where we should be seeing the Aurora Borealis?
Also, how long does the battery on that fucking record player last?
Yeah, right?
I mean, you would never need to invent the iPod if you could kind of play a record player for that long on a desert island, right? Literally up a creek. There is no distinction between what literally happens in this movie and what we say. Oh, I don't even know who this lady is.
Seriously.
People just pop up and disappear from this movie. Like, even the stars of the movie disappear for a good 20 minutes at a time.
How do they, what? So this is part of the emergency plan? How does everybody know to go to one place in 2 days? And if nobody can make it in 2 days, why not make it 4 days? And don't they have fucking radios? Have we talked about that yet? Do they just not work?
The radios are not they're not in range, I don't think.
All right.
Because as you said, it's like they're in another state. People spill their backstories in this movie at the drop of a hat.
Seriously.
She just said, I can't see my camera. And that's all she said to prompt this. Have a way for me to see my camera. My father died in the war. What?
Well, between that and the Kong exposition dump from John C. Reilly when we meet him.
He wasn't one of those uppity gorillas. He was the
Fuck.
No, come on. That's
Also in that last scene, I mean, Brie Larson is in fact one of the most beautiful women on the planet, but that scene was saying, hey, don't forget what's important to remember. Brie Larson's really beautiful.
Right.
Oh man. If I watch the camera go through one more hole in this movie, I'm going to lose my shit. This is Kong's television show.
Which she did have a television show back in the day. There's several King Kong television shows.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the Japanese reboot came from.
Oh, is that right?
Mm-hmm. This is where I realized we didn't need the cold open.
Right.
We never needed to see him before. We see him now. If you have the scene. It's literally one cancels the other out. It's that easy. Screenplay writing is hard, but certain choices are very easy.
Right.
Because you can look and say, is that exactly the same scene that gives me the
Some
same
things
information?
can go.
One of them can go. That's not what's hard about writing. That's what you do when you don't feel like writing, is you make those choices.
Right.
Here we go. Let's pump up that Millennium Falcon hyperdrive.
Mm-hmm. It's the same exact noise.
Can hear Ben Burt getting richer. Well, it's Industrial Light and Magic, so must be their stock library.
Man, they all snuck up on them.
Well, they're
Pretty,
sneaky shits, remember?
Yeah, quickly and easily, and silently.
That's it. Also, there's something implicitly racist about the fact they're silent
Hmm.
and kind of funny looking.
Like, who doesn't notice 150 people walking up right next to their boat?
They're like the Ooga from Crystal Skull. Yes,
Please don't remind me.
Well, I'm not reminding you. This movie is reminding me of Crystal Skull.
Yeah. See, like, listen to this music.
Is it music? Like anything in every technical element of this movie, it barely qualifies as what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. But the tone of it is so wrong. Oh, for fuck's sake. Another needle drop?
I have so many notes that are just like, for God's sake, stop with the music. If I wanted to put on the best of 1973, I'd do it. That's not what I asked for when I went to see Kong Skull Island.
It is impossible to develop a character in this movie.
Yes.
What she is doing is insanely dangerous. The only thing she's going to do is cut off a finger.
And you know from experience.
I do.
This is a recent injury for you.
Yeah.
Based around this exact
Looks very
danger.
good, by the way.
Sorry?
Came together well.
What did? Oh, it's healing.
My
fine?
skin.
Good.
No, they definitely think you're dead. Of course they think you're dead.
Tom Hiddleston
You didn't come back from the war.
Tom Hiddleston looks like he's about to say, I'm going to go in the back and exfoliate.
Yeah. See, that's another problem with this movie is that, oh man, I got a garbage disposal, but Hiddleston looks like that he's from 2017.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In a movie where nobody else does.
He looks like an incredulously popular British actor from a 2017 movie. I have no idea who's dead and who's not. I keep seeing people that I assumed were dead and they're not. Is there any way you can have
what is in the briefcase that John Ortiz refuses to let go of?
Is there any way in which birds attack, like grabbing a person and then mugging him is not funny? And no one's reacting as if it's supposed to be funny.
Worse yet, he just had his arm cut off and they didn't react as though that was horrific.
Mm-hmm.
For them, even though it's completely comedic to us.
This is the part of the stream where the big monkey didn't dump. Just this part. Everywhere else, monkey dump water. Hey, let's tell each other what happened in our respective scenes.
Exactly. I was just gonna say, let's recap.
Boy, if we'd been together, we wouldn't have to have this conversation. I have a racist agenda to complete.
Yeah. Right.
To kill the beast within myself. They should have. It'd be funny if Samuel Jackson said, "Who's this guy?" And he's like, he's like, a rotund, aging, bearded character actor. It's like, oh, we got one of those.
Yeah.
We got one of those in our platoon.
It would have been better if he didn't say that until John C. Reilly just gave that speech.
Yeah.
East is what, or East is good, West is bad. That's why we say that. Who is this?
Playing it like
Wow.
what's the name, like Foster Brooks? Foster Brooks, the guy, the old-timey comedian who had like a routine where he's playing a drunk.
Oh yeah.
Is his name Foster Brooks? He used to do like the Dean Martin show.
Right. Hang on. Foster Brooks.
That's how John G. Reilly's playing it. I bet it's deliberate.
He would know.
Yeah. Well, it's also, I'm pretty sure this is around the time he played Oliver Hardy as well, and I don't think he's quite recovered from playing Oliver Hardy.
That's true.
I think he's still in Ollie mode for a lot of this.
Right.
I keep expecting him to like twiddle his bow tie and go,
so yeah, this is how I remember him.
Don't you know anything?
Foster Brooks.
That's him. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly what he's channeling here.
Totally.
And he could just say things like hard-boiled eggs and nuts, and we've been on the wiser because none of the dialogue in this movie makes sense anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense anyway.
Also a little bit of, I know he works with him, but also a little bit like the Will Ferrell Gold Prospector character from SNL.
Yeah, now the movie's green.
Just
little
like
monkeys.
Just like that one scene in Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Right. So I had the same thought as you. It's like, are these monkey skulls? So Kong isn't the only ape. So who are the other apes on the island, and why don't we know about that? That sounds interesting.
Well, because in the chalk outlines in the back at the village, it looked like there was also Kong looking over that exact scene, like small dead monkeys.
Again, I keep thinking of opportunities where actors can put in lines from other movies that they've been in. Like John Goodman could have easily gone, calmer than you. Calmer than you.
Calmer than you are, dude.
Calmer than you are. It's hard to tell what's happening through all the green.
Yeah.
What do you think of the design of these creatures?
I think they don't compare.
To what?
To like 2005 Kong, like anything we ever saw before.
Even the OG dinosaur.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it reminds me of when they stretch their faces in Beetlejuice, and also a little bit of Alien Resurrection.
Mm-hmm.
The half human, half alien.
It's very Beetlejuice. Like, I'm surprised Tim Burton didn't say, "Hey, you owe me some fucking money."
But then if you take the money, you acknowledge that you had a part in Kong Skull Island, which is going to reduce anyone's street cred, I think.
Well, for you and me, I'm not sure that
Right,
others
I know.
feel the same way.
This is such a good choice in that respect. Oh, there he goes. There's John Goodman. Now, you've semi-recently done Deep Blue Sea, right? On the How Dare You podcast?
Well, I mean, it was one of our first. It was like literally our second episode, I think.
Do you think that they were trying to go with Sam Jackson in the room, that they were trying to go for the same vibe of Sam Jackson's death in Deep Blue Sea?
See, the problem is if they did, they fucked it up because the character knew he was going to die before the audience did.
I actually have 4 more reasons why it doesn't work. I hadn't even thought of that one.
Well, go on, please.
Well, it works in Deep Blue Sea because Samuel Jackson is far and away the star of the movie.
Yeah, right.
So it's a surprise when he dies midway through the movie. There's a racial commentary of black people dying in horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
And the dynamic of the movie changes after he's gone.
All true.
So in this movie, John Goodman is by no means the biggest name in the movie. So him disappearing midway through doesn't change much.
Mm-hmm.
His thing is apparently flame throwing.
I guess. Yes. Throw flame. I was going to say, he was pretty reckless with that flamethrower. The fire seems to make me believe that Brie Larson should be burnt to a crisp. I'm sorry. Did the person just? Oh, was it the guy with all the bombs on his neck?
Yeah.
Okay. They made it seem like the person was combustible and lit that skull on fire.
Reason 2, there's no subtext or commentary. It's just a guy dying. Reason 3, we've already established John C. Reilly as the replacement for John Goodman in the movie.
Yeah.
So the dynamic has not changed one iota. And he knows he's going to die before it happens, so it's not even a surprise to him. How can it be?
They never should have showed us that shot of his view, because all it makes you believe is everything he's doing, he shouldn't be able to do.
Here was me thinking that scene was all about Tom Hiddleston spilling his backstory. It was actually a callback. It was set up for a lame callback. The lighter.
Yep.
That's maybe the one scene in the... And then that scene was maybe the one scene in the movie that served 2 purposes. I'm John Goodman now. Haven't seen Kong for a while.
Right?
This movie should be called
For
Skull
a movie
Island
called
featuring
Kong
King
Skull
Kong.
Island.
Yeah. Skull Island featuring King Kong. Like, you know, when a male rapper guests on a female rapper's song, so that all the sexist people buy it. Howard Johnson is right.
Oh boy.
It's tedious, isn't it? You really feel that extraneous 30 minutes.
Yeah.
It's at least half an hour before they get to the island, so I don't know where that time went.
I think it was more like 22 minutes, but it was still, we could have been on the island in 10.
I'm rounding up. But what were they doing in those 22 minutes?
Hard to say. Oh, you're right. I think it's more 27 minutes before we really even.
How does that stack with, I guess the worst you've encountered is Jack Frost, right? 37 minutes before he turns into
so
a snowman.
long. Just fucking die already.
But also the movie's called Skull. Like, here's the equivalent, okay? And again, another better example of this kind of movie. Tremors, Shrieker Island.
Mm-hmm.
How long does it take them to get on the island? Can't be more than 5 minutes.
No, yeah. I mean, it's immediate.
Because the movie's called Shrieker Island. So when you watch the movie, you want to be on Shrieker Island.
Yeah.
And you don't have to call the movie anything Island. Call it what you want. If you know proportionally your movie is not going to be on the island, don't call it something Island.
Yeah, it's Kong Skull Island, and then you see the island, which looks like a skull. And I can't believe that there's no character in this movie that would say, hey, this island looks like a skull.
Rick Ollier would. We need Ralph Brown. And he could answer that guy.
So you gonna eat the mushrooms? What's
he
going
could
on?
answer that guy's question as well. Is this a monkey? He would go, yes, it's a monkey. I'm Rick Ollier from The Phantom Menace. I hope he turns up in Obi-Wan Kenobi as a narrator. The whole series is just Rick Ollier telling someone a lot, like an involved story with too many details. Your move, Lucasfilm, your move.
That's the ants. I'll tell you, even when helicopters crash, you know what still works? The thing that makes the music go.
Thank God none of our CCR records were damaged in the crash. This particular record contains all the CCR songs you know, and none of the ones you don't. This should be called... Actually, I suppose you probably couldn't call it Fire Island, but it's a better title, because there really is a Fire Island.
Yeah.
That would confuse people. But this movie has more fire than Backdraft.
So you want to fuck?
Yeah, that's that. I got to tell you, I don't want to tell you your job, photojournalist lady, but that photo ain't going to develop. It's too dark. Photography 101. You could have at least had a line about how she's using a special flash or something.
Something.
Bless you.
I'm allergic to this movie.
You're allergic to monkey fur.
Yeah, that's what I would do. Get closer. Touch them.
Yeah, I know. It's like, how can we make the white women fetish less racist? Well, first of all, let's have her reach out, so it's like she's asking for it.
Yeah.
And okay, well, that makes it very misogynistic. You know, You can only do one prejudice
I
at a
mean,
time.
there's only so much we could do.
And you know, like that scene with the dinosaur in Jurassic Park. It's like, yeah. Brie Larson's like, I do not want to be on screen enjoying this.
Mhm.
This is going to be on my reel forever. I don't want to be a clip from documentaries about racist Hollywood movies. Kong's like, I'm good. I just like to watch.
Oh, you don't say.
I top from the bottom. So stupid. Kong, I top from the bottom.
Oh, I mean, we still got 28 minutes. What
I
else
hate it.
is gonna
I hate
happen
it
in
when
this
you
movie?
Isn't that the worst thing when you're convinced a movie is nearly over and you check the time bar and there's like an hour more than you think there's going to be.
Although with a movie like this, you have to assume there's going to be 10 to 12 minutes of credits. So
You don't have to assume. I can tell you for a fact there is. And you have to stay to the end because the entire point of the movie is after the credits. The post-credit scene tells you what the movie was about.
what the whole thing was, why we watched all of this.
It's a new approach to the post-credits thing. Instead of giving you a little Easter egg, it tells you what the point of the movie was. This is for all the black men in Hollywood. It was
I like
only
that they're
when I
all pointing their guns at him.
It was only when I set the monkey on fire that I knew I'd done something wrong.
They're all pointing their guns at him, forgetting that the helicopter cannons did nothing. Rawr.
Yeah.
See, I knew exactly how long it would take to happen.
Not long enough is the answer. Or not quickly enough. One of the two. Either way, I don't need to see it. Just like the statue of Saddam. Yay! Racism is over, guys! If they'd have come up with a better character reason for him to want to destroy Kong, it would be less racist. You wouldn't immediately drift to the racist answer. But because man is king? Really? Stop pointing that gun at my dad! Wrong movie. He wasn't in that one.
We are soldiers. We do the dirty work. The dirty work of killing giant animals.
When I started watching this movie yesterday, I never for a moment imagined that we would have a Mexican standoff based around who likes Kong and who doesn't like Kong.
Right.
you just say bitch, please?
Yep. Do I? Oh, they're gonna just milk this forever. Like, just come on.
I thought by 2017 Hollywood would have learned its lesson that making the black man the racist in the story is not the same as not being racist. I mean, we still had that shit with iRobot. You know, where Will Smith is the most racist character in the movie. All the Planet of the Apes stuff we talked about, where we're like, where does this get us? Doesn't look
If
that
only
much
we had
bigger.
not have knocked Kong unconscious.
That doesn't look much bigger than the ones we've seen.
Yeah, right.
Not significantly enough. Although that's a monster movie tradition of we never know quite how big the monster is.
Yeah.
Changes scene by scene. You ever seen the movie Behemoth? It's like a Z movie.
I don't know that I
50s.
have.
It's a total Godzilla ripoff.
Oh,
Hey,
she's
I'm
getting
Sam Jackson. I say motherfucker in movies except for PG-13 movies where I get cut off.
Yep.
We only get one of these motherfuckers. Oh, shit. Yeah, Behemoth is the one I remember where there's like a scene where Behemoth is attacking a city, and in one scene he's only slightly taller than the people he's chasing, and then in another one he's on top of like a skyscraper. For some reason, this scene reminded me of Apocalypto. When they find the ship, the old ships. And then I start thinking about how good Apocalypto is at doing this kind of thing.
Right.
Interesting. A lot of my notes are about other movies that have done this better. Apocalypto is a fucking awesome movie.
Why did they do a vertigo shot there? Like, why is the Jaws shot in there? Like, just them walking out onto the marsh.
How far do you think Voight Roberts was out of film school?
Right.
That might explain a lot. He's still in that phase where he's trying out things that he's seen at film, watching movies at film school. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you probably shouldn't be doing it in a major Hollywood franchise movie.
$185 million movie.
Yeah. Fucking
unbelievable.
If that happened to Wile E. Coyote, you'd be like, too broad. I don't buy it. He gets kicked by a giant lizard tail, thrown into a cliff. Also, at what point in the movie was it established that this guy's going to sacrifice himself for everyone else? He was one of our two comic relief.
Comic relief. Also, how about at least an attempt or two of throwing those things into his mouth while he's roaring?
So here we've got the jawbreaker scene, which I think is the scene you have to do in a Kong movie.
It's a prerequisite now.
Yeah, all of the reboots have it. It's one of the most famous scenes from the original. But you know what's good about the scene in the original? No music.
Mm-hmm.
Just watching an animal kill another animal with no exterior sound. It's haunting, that scene.
Right.
And it takes a long time for him to break the jaw. And the camera doesn't move. I mean, you couldn't really with those effects, but... So this is the content, but none of the style. Oh, I didn't even notice they put him in chains there.
Wow.
That's also... It's like, we got to do all the King Kong legacy stuff in one scene.
Shit.
So he's got to fall and end up in chains and break the lizard mouth. Then we've got to have him climbing the Empire State Building. I don't know how we're going to make that happen, but we've got to do it.
Yeah, you're fucked now. Ah, for fuck's sake.
There's got to be a more organic way he could get into chains, right? This is his Kunta Kinte moment.
Let's see, in the last shot, Beetlejuice monster was about 3 steps away from the boat.
I love that we're calling it the Beetlejuice monster now. Oh dear.
That was a nice shot.
Also, I know that this is fantasy. These are monsters, not real animals, but
I like that Beetlejuice monster started following Hiddleston instead of the boat that was fucking shooting it.
They are way too anthropomorphized, these lizard people. Like at one point, it looked like they would rather relish the fact that they had the advantage over Kong than actually killing him. Animals don't work that way,
right?
That's us. We do that shit. It's like they're not villains who, tell you their evil plan
right
before they kill you. Once again, we're in a movie that combines slow motion and underwater filming. Who's going to rescue the white woman from her certain death, do you think?
Yeah, right.
There's only one guy who's horny enough to do that in this movie. I sense a white woman. I sense a white woman is in danger. I got you, baby. I got you.
Hiddleston was like, thank God I can't swim.
It's very difficult to like do the white woman obsession without the concomitant racist rapiness. But that's very Alien Resurrection. Watching its guts come out like slurry, not flurry, McFlurry. Same thing. A slurry or a McFlurry.
One or the other.
I'm just gonna put it down because no one I believe I saved her.
Right.
I'm gonna catch hell for this. Just hand her back to the other white guy. Walk away.
His hair still looks good.
Who Kongs? Oh no, Tom Hiddleston.
Well,
I'm just
bless
gonna
Brie Larson, because I'm not sure I could bring a tear in that moment.
I'll walk away so the white European couple can prevail. I didn't think this could be more more anti-miscegenation than a 1933 movie, but it is.
For fuck's sake.
Is that their way of setting up a sequel?
Mm-hmm.
Blood will get out. Maybe Godzilla will hear about this.
Yeah, right?
Or Mothra. Gamera.
I've been hearing through the grapevine that King Kong's going to start some shit.
Yeah, we haven't quite covered all the Cold War nuclear movies that were made between 1960 and 1980. So let's do a little Doctor Strangelove. I don't know why you're all acting like you're safe.
Right? I was going to say the same thing.
Fucking monsters everywhere. Even King Kong's like, there's too many monsters on this island. Yeah, let's just undo everything we learned about King Kong for the sake of a final shot of him going apeshit. But is he really one of the good ones? Was he uppity after all?
That's the end?
No, not quite the end. Because what weirder way is there to start the credits than a kind of hybrid home movie that could never be filmed because the camera would never be there scene of John G. Reilly, the lead character in this movie, apparently going home to reunite with his family.
John C., by the way.
I keep saying John G.
Drop it.
Great. Good to know. Next time, invest me in his story a bit more, and then the scene would have more resonance.
Right, exactly.
As it is,
everybody should be crying. Nobody's going to be crying.
As it is, strange way to start the credits.
So bizarre. I just love that in
also,
the middle,
who's taking this,
like
who's
before,
taking this whole movie?
Before this family is hugging, we started seeing credits.
Right. We're so invested. I mean, not that invested. We'll get. It's also a good way to eat through some of the credits.
Yes, because as referenced earlier, the credits are going to be long.
Also, like, this movie can't even keep its own story straight. He was getting nostalgic about having a hot dog at like a Wrigley Field.
Yeah, at Wrigley.
Not in his own fucking home watching baseball on TV.
Right. You can't afford a ticket.
It's a very different experience, right? Is that another case where it's like, John C. Reilly's just like, I'm just going to do this bit, and this like, doesn't quite jibe with what we've already done, John. Mm-hmm. We don't have the money to rent out Wrigley Field.
Well, it's funny to me, one of the actors to be in this movie is either John C. Reilly or John Goodman. Because at a certain point, John Goodman dies, and you have to think as the actor, he's like, thank God I don't have to go into fucking film any more of this tomorrow.
Right.
Or John C. Reilly, who's like, it's like
those,
I don't have to film anything in the front half of this movie.
It's like one of those.
I can just show up about 2 months later and do my bits.
Straight off the set of Stan and Ollie.
Yeah.
Still playing Oliver Hardy in my mind.
So good, by the way, in that movie.
Oh yeah, both him and Coogan are exemplary.
Mm-hmm. What a fucking dud. I mean, really the whole thing, but what a dud of an ending.
Both of them.
Yeah.
And we're not even at the end yet.
And we're not, yeah, true.
This movie has 3 endings, technically, if you count the post-credit sting, which we've been alluding to the whole time.
I mean, you literally don't have they give you the lip service of John C. Reilly coming home, but nothing else for any other character.
Right. Again, it's like, that's it. You if you're going to have a big cast, you need to like have taken a screenwriting class specifically about writing for ensembles.
Right.
Or just read Glenn, like I said, just read Glengarry Glen Ross. That's how you do it. That's like the solution is there, guys. It's very doable. Very doable. What's the other great example? That movie, Detective Story with Kirk Douglas. That's another one.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no main character in that movie.
What year is Detective Story?
48, I think. 47, maybe 49. What do you think about the credits being over this? The kind of script, native people's scripts.
I think they're telling you something was important in the movie when you know for a fact it wasn't important in the movie.
Okay, I'm glad we agree. But then I thought about what the alternative would be, and the only other alternative I bet they considered was it all happens over a monkey eye. So maybe we got off lightly.
Yeah, that's true.
That's the thing. Like, when I think about what the alternative to what they do, it's typically worse than what I see. But what I'm seeing is not satisfactory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right about the music. This is the most nondescript music I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
The music is either too specific or not specific enough. It's either exactly the CCR song you expect to hear at this moment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly.
This not quite soundscape, not quite orchestral score that's kind of hovering in and out
exactly.
of your
It's
ears.
not orchestral. It's just somebody walked into a room and said, I want action adventure mixed with jungle. And this is what we got.
The opening of Shrieker Island.
Yeah, right.
That's the music you need for this kind of movie. Industrial Light and Magic, that's where we had all the Ben Bolt sound effects. All the best stuff in this movie comes from other movies. Oh, we're not even close to this being over.
Ooh, digital artists.
Oh, we got another 5 minutes of credits. Have we revealed that most of this movie was filmed in Vietnam?
I don't think we have, but I did know that about this movie.
It's a movie set during the Vietnam War that never sets foot in Vietnam, but it's filmed in Vietnam.
Right.
And there's so much Vietnamese involvement if you look at the credits.
Yeah, right.
And I do wonder whether the whether the Vietnamese people who worked with the movie knew what a pro-American piece of shit war movie this was.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd say like it visually Apocalypse Now, but politically Green Berets. And again, I think there's a deliberateness about it to like not to make a war movie that is anti-war, but make a movie that is not pro-war, but pro-fighting and blowing up shit.
Yeah, right. Pro-revenge. A lot of stereos. Stereo paint, stereo roto, stereo production, stereo elements, stereo editorial. A lot of stereo. To say nothing of actual stereos.
Right. Songs. This is going to be a good 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They could have just written here all the ones you expect, and that's it.
I was thinking the same thing. Why do people like this movie so much?
I don't know. Now, if you pay close attention, the end of the movie is ruined right here.
Yeah, in a second, they're going to show you why they made this movie so that they could get to the next movie.
And in a second, they're going to reveal why the credits mention Godzilla and other Toho properties.
Right.
There's another audio fake out. This isn't Ferris Bueller. Move on. It's the least convincing mercenary in the. I mean,
Right.
Was Daniel Craig busy or something? Wasn't making a Bond movie, I can tell you that. I know, we were on the island. We saw a bunch of these monsters.
Yeah, right.
It's logical there would be more. You can find out about this in a really boring Bryan Cranston movie. Speak about not starting quickly enough.
But that movie's present day, right?
Holes within holes.
Oh. All right.
Well, I don't really need to ask good or bad now, do I? I think that noise said all.
Yeah, I kind of let it fly, didn't I?
Well, so okay, well, but let's nail it down. Good or bad?
It's bad.
It's bad. It's really bad.
Yeah.
I don't think postmodernism is enough to excuse both how badly written and racist this movie is.
Mm-hmm.
And I read a lot of reviews that speak to how the acting and the directing elevate this movie, but I don't agree with that at all.
No, I don't agree with that. I think it's very uneven.
There's huge missteps in both camps.
Right.
And, you know, actors and directors are kind of responsible for the tone of the movie, and that is just so inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
And unknowable at so many points in this movie that I don't think you get away with that excuse.
I mean, for a movie in which so many lives are lost, so many harrowing things are happening, nothing dramatic happens in this movie.
No.
It never feels dramatic. The only moment that felt dramatic, they popped like a balloon by having John C. Reilly come out.
It's interesting. It's really interesting. Yeah. I mean, what do you? Because we didn't talk about this beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue this is more of a war movie than it is a monster movie. Does that change anything?
Even when you say that, to me, it's this movie doesn't know how to toe the line between the two.
No. Yeah, even if you, if I'm kind of walking it through a war movie, it still doesn't work.
No. Works less as a war movie.
But also there's something about coming out of the gates with the iconography of a war movie that really muddies the waters as to what kind of a movie you're watching.
Well, and I think the director and certainly the writers think that the lip service paid to certain moments carries more weight than it does. So when Samuel L. Jackson says something like, and we didn't lose the war, we, whatever he says, pulled out from it or retreated from it or whatever.
We abandoned it.
Your
word, by the way, your choice of words is much better. Every single line of dialogue in this movie needs another pass. You just proved that.
We abandoned it. They think that is enough setup for the rest of everything that Samuel L. Jackson does as a character. When in reality, there's an interesting idea to be had there. If it's not just Samuel L. Jackson, if you're talking about kind of trying to lock together a war movie and a monster movie, there's something very interesting about soldiers who just got finished with a Vietnam War in which did not go well, in which they won battles but lost the war and then went home and were made to feel like shit, and then coming here and sort of as an entity, as a mindset, saying, we can't go, we have to finish this, we have to. And the other characters struggling to make them understand that this is not Vietnam, that you have to make a different choice. That could have been interesting, but they don't do enough with it to make that happen.
No, not at all. And it's not, that's it's interesting to contrast my expectations of what this movie was going to be, having only heard about it, to seeing it now twice in the space of 2 days. As we know, I have condemned myself to do.
Yes.
With this project.
So pleased that I just show up and watch it.
But you've always seen it at some point. That's
true.
It's like, apart from Treasure Buddies, I think was the only one I managed to get you on, and with good reason. And it's really not. It really doesn't conform to the movie that everyone thinks it is. Like, I was expecting a full-on action war movie with a kind of monster at the center of it.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I got any of that.
And I also think that people think it's funnier and fun more than anything else. And it's not that either.
No, the humor, as a rule, does not work. Like, it's really badly integrated.
It's almost failure after failure. It's a constant failure.
Well, that scene where every single joke missed the mark.
Yeah.
In real time. You know what I mean? It's like watching that in real time with you is just like makes it abundantly clear that this movie doesn't know how to do comedy, and
if you can't get me on your side.
But you know, again, it goes back to the choice of director, who was known for one movie, and a movie that was a comedy drama.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where they're kind of aiming their. That's what they're trying. I mean, they kind of make something that works as a dramatic comedy, I guess. Like, why else would you pick that director?
Well,
but that's the weakest element of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a movie that fundamentally does not know how to do character or characterization.
Well, and I think I mentioned that at some point during the movie, you know, there's no character development in this movie whatsoever. You don't even have a paying lip service to a love story between Hiddleston and Brie Larson that you think you're going to get in this movie. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's true, actually.
Because this movie would substitute that scene for her touching Kong's nose.
Even the scenes about being on the nose are on the nose.
That's good.
It's fascinating. I mean, and you know, I was prepared today to kind of tone down my political suspicions about this movie, but I noticed a bunch of other things that were.
Did you?
Twice as offensive, yeah. The whole sense of good Kong, bad Kong, and
right.
This is his nature is to be bad, but he's actually one of the good ones. I mean, there's definitely a racist discourse in there, but I think the fault is actually the approach of this movie. And you know, I have this problem. It's really interesting when you said, you know, they only pay lip service to these things. That whole statement you made speaks to so many modern day franchise movies for me.
Sure.
But I also think the political approach of a lot of these movies, and specifically this one, is trying to speak to the themes of the original movie, assuming that is a dated and offensive thing, which with, you know, King Kong it definitely is,
right,
whilst correcting the mistakes at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's such a delicate balance to get right, that you're almost automatically going to fall short.
Like, do we judge the movie too harshly because it's a difficult thing to do? I guess not. I mean, they fucked it up. You know what I mean? Like,
but it's sort of like they want us to see that this movie has a racist history.
Do they?
Well, then, yeah. Because why would you make it about like
Sam Jackson?
Yes, like Sam Jackson as an African American trying to kill the thing that has held Black people back.
See, what I'm starting to wonder is, did that thought ever cross the director's mind?
But if it's accidental, then you need someone there saying, look,
do you not realize? Right.
When people see King Kong movies, they expect subtext.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we don't watch King Kong because it's about a giant monkey. We watch it.
Because the thing that's sticking out to me about this movie is that this movie feels like there are literally no ideas behind it.
I can tell that the person or persons writing it, know the political ramifications of the history of this series.
So that might be it. Maybe it's that the writers had those ideas, but the director didn't. The director's like, right. You know who's fucking cool? Samuel L. Jackson. We should get him in that role. Because we can have him say, you mother, and right before he says fucker, he's murdered. And that'll be like the Deep Blue Sea moment.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I think he's only thinking on that level, that plane. That's how the movie feels to me from the director.
And again, that's a really fine that's a really fine line to tread. You can, if you think about The Mandalorian and to some extent the Book of Boba Fett, it's been said many times that it's like writers and directors playing with Star Wars toys and making up their own stories, like in the way that you used to with your Star Wars toys. You would
Sure.
make new stories that way. And this movie kind of does have that, the way you were putting it there. It does have that feel.
Mhm.
It's like, here's my Jurassic Park figures. Here's my,
Right.
here's my King Kong action figure. Let's put it all together. But
It does have a feeling like like a 1980s, like lift up the box, Kong Skull Island.
Yeah.
Action set.
Yeah.
It does feel like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
true.
funny.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting. What is the continuing attraction of this movie? Or did everyone just like it in the moment and has never seen it again? Did it just hit better in 2017 because of it was released in March and there wasn't
maybe, but that's the thing. Like, it shouldn't have.
It was before we knew the world was about to end, or like what is?
I mean, because we already have Trump, we already have Me Too, we already have,
and the movie references those things. Like,
yeah, we already have.
Well, not Me Too. I mean,
the country kind of, even if certain things racially hadn't happened yet, we're facing a racial reckoning in the country.
And the movie is linking 1973 to the turmoil of 2017, like explicitly. Although that never comes up again.
Right. Once you get past Nixon bobbleheads.
Yeah. It's really, yeah. It's really interesting. And there is that problem of retrofitting in the way this references the 1970s. Because there's a lag of time, because what you're talking about is movies that were made in the late 70s that were about the early 70s.
Sure.
So Apocalypse Now is what, 79? I know it was like was that famous line. It was the early 70s when we started to make it, but it was the late 70s when it came out. But that's what they're referencing, but that is not, I've studied and taught American history, and I have a flair for what 1973 was like. And those late 70s interpretations of what the early 70s was like is already a retrospective idea of what that is. You've got an extra layer of that here, going 2017 to late 70s movies about the early 70s.
About 73, right? Yeah.
So I think that's, it's like third generation removed from the real thing, and yet the movie's telling us that this is real history again and again.
Yeah.
In a way that both B movies don't really bother with. Because,
but to a certain extent, this movie doesn't either, because Hiddleston does not look like he's from the era. I would say Brie Larson really doesn't either, when you think about it.
No.
Most of those characters don't look like they're from 1973. Really.
No, and they don't even look like the kinds of movie stars that were from 1973.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, you kind of want
in terms
them to
of
feel
character
like
actors, it's totally like 2017.
Yeah, because in 1973 we didn't feel
it's the opposite of
people and things.
Yeah, it's the opposite of A Naked Gun, where you get the actor that would be in the serious part to play the comedic part.
Right.
You're getting the 2017 actor to play the movie in 2017, despite the fact that it takes place in 1973.
and you're also not playing to the strengths of the people you do cast, right? In this movie.
Yeah. Right.
So you like John Goodman has like a long history in this kind of a movie as the comic relief.
Sure.
But he's the first half kind of lead.
Yeah. He's the lead up until Kong attacks.
Right. And then,
So for the first act.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, arguably, it doesn't give Sam Jackson anything to do that he doesn't do in every single movie he does.
Mm-hmm.
Which is,
you know what I was just thinking? What if Sam Jackson's character was Sylvester Stallone? I mean, he's too old, but
you'd have to explain why he has so much plastic surgery. But
yeah.
I was thinking. I said this, like, I don't know if you could hear me over all the explosions, but I said, wouldn't it be great if Arnie was one of the actors? And I mean, it's interesting. And yeah, if you think about it, like a movie like The Expendables, I know I talk about that movie all the time, but that walks that very fine line of like, it feels like an 80s action movie, but it's got a little bit of distance and detachment from that, and so the tone is kind of nice. You can feel a bit elegiac about this without buying into it wholly. And I guess that's what they were going for a little bit here with the napalm, with them napalming the island. Like, this shit isn't okay. We know that in 2017 this shit wasn't okay, but we also want to enjoy it in a genre sense. But again, you've got to be like someone really sophisticated to make that work. You've got to be a Tarantino or a Wes Anderson or a sometimes Paul Thomas Anderson. It's like it like if you're not in charge of the material, it all looks incompetent. I think. Yes. And this movie, that's my takeaway from this movie. It's like,
but I think that's my takeaway as well. This movie does feel rudderless. It doesn't feel like somebody's at the helm.
Feels like they gave it to a guy who wasn't ready to make this kind of movie.
To make the movie, yeah.
Which is exactly what happened.
Which is what happened.
I mean, I'm no fan of Guillermo del Toro, but there's no.
God damn it! But everybody,
I think he's
I'll
usually
just add that to the list of people you don't like.
I know. I think he's usually overrated, but I'm sure he knows how to make a monster movie better than this. Joe Cornish would have been a good choice coming in off Attack the Block. Adam Wingard obviously succeeded doing this kind of a movie at least one other time.
Mm-hmm.
And yet they went with a director who has exactly none of that range of experience.
Right.
Which is strange. But I'm glad, I feel vindicated. I mean, I was worried about choosing this movie because we've rejected watch-along movies before that were just too well liked.
Right.
But I could, as soon as I started to dig deeper into that, I could see holes in the argument as to why this might be a good movie.
Sure.
And then seeing the movie, I absolutely understood that it was all based on an illusion. Like a really clever kind of shadow puppet. You know what I mean? Like, people are seeing a shadow puppet of this movie, not the actual movie.
Yeah.
It means something to them in their minds that is just not there on the screen.
Right, exactly. I think,
which is fascinating to me, how some movies can do.
I'm baffled as to, I guess I'd have to look more deeply into fan love of this movie, but my sense is, I mean, the people who love this movie really do love it. And to me, it's like a sleight of hand trick that this movie is pulled, in which people are not looking at this movie in any critical fashion.
No. Well, didn't we encounter this with Once Upon a Time in Mexico?
Like
Yeah.
even Roger Ebert is like, I know I shouldn't like this, but I
Yeah.
kind of do.
But I
And it's like,
do.
yeah, but there's literally no
But there's
compelling reason
objective
to do that.
bad, like there's
Yeah.
some shit in the movie that's
They
objectively done
mishandled
poorly.
this movie, you know, it's like a
Written
mishandled
poorly,
movie.
directed poorly, you know.
I think a movie that is that badly mishandles this kind of material can never be like a fun movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's where you and I differ from a lot of the film going public, that it can still be fun even if they miss the mark. The where are you getting the fun from?
So
if a joke's not making you laugh, how are you leaving thinking it was funny?
Well, I mean, out now on both podcasts is Mannequin,
Right.
and it's not a sequel, but we're doing this crossover event. So I take a movie like that, and it's nothing but fun. I don't know how you mentioned it on the podcast.
Yeah.
I don't know how somebody could not have fun watching this movie.
But
regardless of what it's about, and you know,
they claim that they didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet the opposite is true for movies that fundamentally at their center do not work.
Right.
I don't know, if you don't work, you have to not work in such a spectacular fashion.
In a particular and exacting fashion.
And this movie is far too middle of the road,
right,
working for that.
Yeah.
It is just, that didn't land. That shot is unnecessary. I don't need that scene again.
Right.
Stop playing CCR. You know, it's like these are tiny things, but they're just, the whole movie is kind of peppered with them.
Right.
Almost like napalmed with them. You're like, I suppose you should say for this movie. That after 2 hours, you're like, I can't take it anymore.
You're beleaguered. Yeah, you're just sort of.
I can't take like these small mistakes keep happening again and again and again.
Right.
And the movie never finds a way to get out of that groove. Like, we never have a successful
That's the thing.
scene.
This movie never finds a groove.
Right.
I mean, this movie doesn't even really have a third act. There's the first act when we get to the island, and then there's the rest of the movie.
I don't know how they ever got away with abandoning Kong as a monster mid-movie.
Right.
Like, who is letting that happen? Like, even in a merchandising sense. Like, where did Kong go? Like, kids want to see Kong. We want to sell little monkey things. You know,
right, right.
So, like, if it's not an artistic, it doesn't have to be an artistic no. It can be a
practical no.
Yeah, it can be literally like, we want to sell a bunch of this shit. I want to see, I want this fucking thing in every scene. And yet they can't figure it out.
Right.
You know, those you're not selling action figures based on those fucking Beetlejuice monsters.
No, right.
Not unless you're actually doing a crossover with Beetlejuice. That's the only way that's happening.
The only way that would work. like if over on a rock, Beetlejuice himself was going and out of the water raised the Beetlejuice monster, then this movie's interesting.
Again, it would not surprise me if that happened. You know, we have an out of context Diddy Mao in this movie, so
man.
That tells you all you need to know about how randomly quotations from other movies are kind of forced in.
Yeah. Oh well.
Okay. Well, that's.
I think that's
an
that
unsolved mystery.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll find some new information. We'll dig deeper and we'll find some new information. And it'll be like one of those unsolved mysteries where they show a rerun and then they do the follow-up at the end. Like, we found the guy.
We need, what's his name? Robert Stack?
Robert Stack, and who else? There was someone else, wasn't there? There was Robert Stack and Jonathan Frakes, or was that another show?
Ooh, I don't remember that.
He did
unsolved mystery kind of show. Anyway, you can look that information up for yourself, everyone.
That's great.
Funnily enough, I put up the IMDb page for Kong Skull Island, so more fool me. But no, we'd end up talking about Robert Stack. Although Robert Stack would have been great in this movie at one point.
That's who you get for this movie. Robert Stack. Well, he's probably too old too, but
yeah,
a Robert Stack.
You'd need a lot of Metamucil to get him to that island.
Oh man, we'll hang up and then I'll figure out the exact right actor to have played Samuel L. Jackson's part.
Well, they probably, I bet in the casting call it was like a Samuel L. Jackson type, and then someone was like, "Should we just get Sam Jackson?" Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that? How old is he? Doesn't matter. Looks magnificent.
Looks magnificent. We're gonna spend the movie comparing him to a gorilla.
Fuck. All right. Anything left for you?
No. I think I'm vindicated. I feel.
Yeah.
I feel better about I feel better about
choices,
not enjoying
thoughts,
it.
and feelings were the right ones.
No, not necessarily the right ones because it's all relative, but I certainly feel like I don't feel as guilty for not enjoying it the first time I saw it as culture has made me feel about it after talking to someone who
I think
watches
it was
a lot of movies.
I think it might have been a Dark Knight Rises for me because I think I might have let myself be more excited than I should have been for the movie in the first place.
Yeah.
So upon my first viewing, I probably thought, disappointing, but not that bad. I mean, it's still fun. And then on this viewing, I realized it's not even fun.
Not as fun as it should be.
Yeah. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the Everything sequel watch along of Kong Skull Island. Stick around. We'll be back next month with another James Bond sequel.
For your eyes only.
There you go. For your eyes
not
only.
For your eyes only. It'll be on YouTube.
Yeah. All right. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, Michael Shantz here of the How Dare You Awards. We'll be back. Say goodbye, Tom.
It's more of a plane than a boat. It's a ploat. Let's call it a ploat. All the dialogue needs at least one more pass.
Damn it. Actual line of dialogue.
You could have any you could have any of those three, right? You could scratch out two of those three sentences.
Right.
You could say it's more of a plane than a boat.
And end it.
Or you could say it's a ploat. Or you could say, let's call it a ploat. All right, let's call it a ploat.
Let's call it a ploat, everyone.